Good evening, everyone. My name is Sue, and I am a program associate here at the library. Just a few things to run through tonight. We are having a hybrid program this evening, so we have viewers both here in person as well as on Zoom. If you are watching from Zoom, we're using a webinar format, and so you can see and hear us, but we cannot see or hear you. We're going to do question and answer at the end. If you are on Zoom, you could go ahead and add those questions to the Q&A or the chat as the program goes on. Here in person, just hold to the end, and then I'm going to walk around with the microphone. And so our viewers on Zoom can hear you as well. If you would like to see a live transcript on Zoom, click the button on your toolbar that says Show Captions or More and then Captions. The library is using our assisted listening system. It's pretty easy to use. It's a headphone. If you'd like to borrow one, just come see me in the back of the room. Take the time right now to silence your cell phones and any other devices. I have two programs to tell you about. The first one is coming up next week, Tuesday, May 27th from 7 to 8 p.m. It's a hybrid program, handwriting analysis for fun and insight. And through fun stories and detailed insights, Larissa Juliana shares what the size of your writing says about your ego. Oh. And what your margins say about your fears. And then the next one is coming up in June on the 4th, which is a Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Gary Wenstrup is back to talk about the history of Billy Joel. And Gary plays a lot of music in his programs. And if you are interested in any of these programs, I'd be happy to register you after the program. And for viewers on Zoom, I'm going to put links into the chat. And one more thing before I turn it over to Laura, we have some like window decals. In case of an emergency, please rescue pets inside from the Elmhurst Fire Department. I have a few of these. I've like a handful of them in the back. If anybody here is interested in them, come and grab one. If you are on Zoom and interested in this, you can either send me your email through the chat, or I can give you the email of the librarian that can help you with that. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Laura.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Winnie. I am the educator for DuPage County Animal Services. We are the only open admission shelter for DuPage County. We are going to cover a lot of stuff tonight, but I am going to share the presentation as a PDF with everybody who registered. So don't worry about taking notes or anything like that. You will get a copy of this presentation. So basically, we're going to go over 4 main categories of first aid, okay? Wellness and prevention, what to do first in an emergency, some common issues, and then actually taking care of wounds. Now, this advice is not meant to be used in place of a veterinarian. I am not a veterinarian. I am an educator. Probably not be here if I was a veterinarian, because they get to make their own hours because they know all the things. All right. They go to school for a very long time to know the things. So I am more than happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation. But if you have a super specific medical question for me, which happens every single time, I'm probably going to tell you to go ask your veterinarian, because that's why they went to school for all that long time, because they know that stuff. I did not. So you do not even probably want to know the answer to that question from me. So this advice is simply to help you to know when to recognize an emergency and how to stabilize your pet in order to get them to professional care, okay? So basically to know when they need that professional care and how to ensure that they make it to that emergency veterinarian or to your regular veterinarian, okay? Wonderful. So first things first, it's really important to understand how to recognize when something is wrong. And typically that means we need to know what is normal, all right? Animals will hide illness or injury. It's an instinct, right? Nobody wants to be the weak water buffalo when lions are approaching. So it's a natural instinct. You hide those illnesses, you hide those injuries so that nobody knows that you're an easy target, okay? So it is up to us to figure out, has there been a change in their behavior? Has there been a change in their physical condition? So some good examples of this are energy levels. If your animal is more hyperactive than normal, or if they are less active than normal. Are they eating more or less? Have they gained a lot of weight with no changes? Have they lost a lot of weight with no changes to their diet? Or are they having behavior problems they've never had before? I don't know how many times I've had somebody call me at the animal shelter and just be like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I need to surrender my cat. They're not using the litter box. They just stopped using the litter box. That cat is such a jerk. Okay, well, my first question is always, have you taken that cat to see a veterinarian? Because the first thing we want to do is rule out any medical conditions that may be causing the cat not to use the litter box in the first place. Lots of things could be causing a cat to stop using their litter box. For example, bladder stones, kidney stones, urinary tract infections, any other type of infections there where they may all of a sudden have the urge to go and they're nowhere near their litter box. Or let's say you keep their litter box in the basement and they've started developing joint problems. It's going to make it a lot harder for them to go down the stairs into the basement to where their litter box is. So those are some typical ones that we would look for, that a veterinarian would want to test for and try to figure out, is this a medical problem or is this something else that has changed in their environment that's causing this behavior change? Okay. There are some things, some objective measurements that we can take, since behavior can sometimes be a little subjective, right? A little like, maybe, maybe not. But there are some like good measurements we can take. For example, temperature. So temperature in our animals is 99.5 to 102.5. Now that's a very big average. If you consider that the average for all of humanity is 98.6 degrees, okay? 98.6 degrees once in my entire life. I typically run a little bit lower. My husband runs a little bit hotter. He's typically around 98.9, something like that. When he hits 99, he was like, oh my gosh, I have a fever. I'm like, psh, please, you're fine, right? When I hit 99, I'm like, ugh, okay, something's a little off because I tend to run a little bit lower. So it's important to know what is the average for your pet. Does anybody know how do we take pets' temperatures? Does anybody know? Yeah? Yeah, we take a easy digital read thermometer. You can get it at CVS. Label it, put a little bit of lubricant on it, Vaseline, something like that, and then it goes up the rectum. When it beeps, that's your temperature, okay? There are other types of thermometers you can get, but that's typically the most reliable one, okay? Breathing rate, pretty standard. An in and out cycle is going to count as one breath. So you're going to watch their rib cage and look for that up and down, and that's going to count as one breath. 10 to 40 breaths per minute is average for a dog, 20 to 30 for a cat. You can count how many breaths are in 15 seconds and then times by 4, or you can do, for 10 seconds times by 6 to get that breaths per minute. You want to take that measurement when your animal is at rest, not right after they've run around outside or had a very exciting play session or anything like that, to get an accurate idea of what their resting breathing rate is. Heart rate is also going to be measured typically while they're at rest. You're going to look for that femoral artery, which goes along the back leg here. You're going to curl your fingers. Sometimes you might have to press into the flesh a little bit to find it. Don't use your thumb. Thumbs have their own pulse, right? So you're going to use your fingers, go in there. You'll feel the beat, and you count how many beats for 10 seconds times by 6, 15 seconds times by 4 to get that count, okay? So sometimes when our pets are a little off, Sometimes it can help to take these objective measurements to see like, okay, is there something more going on? Should I just monitor them for a little while? Or is there something serious going on below the surface that I need to check on them? One of the things that I like to check on too is gum color. So we like this bubblegum pink. That is the color that we are looking for. Now, some animals will have areas of pigmentation in their mouths. Chows are a great example of that. Their inside of the mouth is basically all black. So that's not going to work for them. Some animals will have spots of blacks on their gum or on their tongue, but anywhere that's not colored is where you're going to be looking. So we want that healthy pink. Okay, and then if it starts to get really pale or really dark red or any weird color, that's a sign that something serious is going on. So how do we know what is normal for our pet? We check in with them on a regular basis. Okay, that is how we do that. Now, this does not need to be like we're going to the veterinarian's office and it's super serious and the animal's freaked out. I do this on my couch. Okay, so I'll be like watching TV and I have my dog beside me and they think we're just doing an intense pet session. But really what I'm doing is I'm going down their entire body. And since I have some senior dogs, I'm actually checking known areas, right? So I know that my dog has a lipoma on his chest. So I'm petting it. I'm like, okay, yep, that's the same size. Okay, yep, okay, you got a little skin tag behind your ear. That's the same size. That's great. And I'm going down, I'm taking a treat and checking his eyes. And we get to use all the senses with this wonderful health check here because we're also going to be listening for breathing problems. We're going to be examining them as we move with our hands. If you feel any spot that's particularly warm, that could be a sign of something inflamed underneath the skin below the surface, okay? If there are weird smells, and I mean weirder than normal weird smells, right? Okay, so if your pet's breath is exceptionally bad, could be a couple of things. Could mean that they have really bad tartar buildup or that there's a tooth rotting in their mouth and they need a dental, okay? Could mean that they've been licking part of themselves that smells especially bad and that's now transferred to the mouth. And it also could even mean that there is decay inside their body and that's actually coming out as really bad breath. So abnormally bad breath can be a sign that something serious is wrong. If the ears smell like beer, could be signs of a yeast infection, right? So we're also checking the ears. I have beagles at home, so I'm constantly flipping up the ears of my dogs and checking in there because floppy-eared dogs have more likelihood of getting crap caught in there and leading to problems. So we're checking in there. And also their genital area. So if we notice any redness, inflammation, excessive licking, or my favorite, the fishy smell. That could be a sign that their anal glands are inflamed and may need to be expressed professionally. So anal glands are little pea-shaped glands on either side of the anus. Typically, the juices are released naturally every time the pet defecates. However, sometimes with some pets, it builds up, it builds up, it builds up. That liquid's not getting released. It can become really painful and it can even become impacted and infected. When it starts to build up, you might notice your pet scooting their booty along the floor. You might see them licking it. And then of course, that really disgusting fish smell. Pets can also release their anal glands naturally. I have a friend, her dog loves to jump in my lap, express his glands, and then leave. She says it's a sign of affection. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, so we want to make sure that we are checking out if there is a weird smell, try to figure out where it's coming from. Yeah, probably they rolled in something, but it's important to know to be able to identify it, okay? Keep this thing fun, have lots of treats, 10 minutes a week, all right? So we're not asking you to do an intense examination. With my cat, what I would do with her, she didn't obviously love being touched all over her body. She found that very invasive. So I would pair it with a brushing session. So I'd use a brush and I would use the brush a couple times and then I'd check. Then I'd use the brush a couple times and then I'd check somewhere. Okay. So I made it fun for her, made it engaged. And if she wanted to leave, I let her leave because it's not like you're going to convince a cat otherwise that something is fun if they don't think it is. So lots of treats, lots of enrichment for them. Keep it light, keep it easy, but it'll help you have that baseline of what's going on. Okay. So before we have an emergency, it's important to make sure that we have the things necessary to be prepared for it, okay? So pet first aid kit is going to look a lot like a people first aid kit, but is going to include a couple things, all right? So want to make sure that you have styptic powder or a styptic pencil. So this is good for little small bleeds, especially like if you cut too close on the nails and you get that quick, all those blood vessels and blood is just oozing out. This is good. It helps to clot the blood faster for this. Gentlemen who shave have told me that they have styptic pencils that they'll use instead of like plastering toilet paper all over themselves if they cut themselves. I wouldn't know, but I believe them. So good for small cuts, not good for like a huge abrasion or anything like that. Other things that you want to have on hand are hydrogen peroxide. Okay, yep, here we go. Hydrogen peroxide. This is not for wound care though. Anybody's parents torture them as a child when they scrape their knee? Yeah, they don't even recommend using this on people anymore because not only does hydrogen peroxide kill bad bacteria, it kills the good bacteria too, actually slows healing. I make sure to bring up that to my mom every single time I see her, so just so she knows. She did everything wrong as a child. So we want to make sure that when we are using our hydrogen peroxide, we are also pairing it, and somebody stole mine. Oh, there it is, with an oral syringe. Because hydrogen peroxide, we're actually going to use to induce vomiting. Okay, so we're going to use that only to induce vomiting. We'll talk more about that later. Saline wash is good to wash out wounds or if something gets lodged in the eye. So you can do this. I actually have a pressurized spray that I have at home that I can use for cleaning out wounds, especially if it has a lot of debris in it. Little pressurized, it's not gonna feel super fun for the pets though, so keep that in mind. A large towel that you don't care anything about. I have these all over my house. So I have them in various places because inevitably something wrong will happen in an area of the house where my husband is and he uses my good towels. So have towels you don't care about conveniently placed all throughout your house, in your car, in your garage, anywhere your pets are going to be, could possibly be, so that they are within easy reach. For pet first aid apps, the one that I like the best is from the Red Cross. It lets you store your vet's information right in the app. So if you're reading up on something and you're like, oh, is that an emergency? Oh, it's an emergency. Then you just hit one button there and it calls your vet. Okay, so that's really nice. Also, I'm a giant nerd. It lets you quiz yourself inside the app. So that's really fun for me. A 6-foot slip lead or spare leash, okay, that you can have. And for our cat friends at home, a cat muzzle. Now, a cat muzzle is different than a dog muzzle. As you can see here in the photo, it actually covers their eyes, okay? Would not recommend trying to cover the eyes of a dog, but this is kind of like blinders on a horse. It helps to calm them down when they can't really see all the bad things happening. My cat had hyperthyroidism. She used to have to get like every 4 months, she would need a blood draw from the vet. She obviously didn't like being stabbed with needles. We would use this. She actually would fall asleep in the vet tech's arms. So I can highly recommend these. Like $7 on Amazon. They come in different sizes. So just read the instructions, figure out what size is best for your cat. And then it Velcros behind their head. Hole for the nose, keeping the ears uncovered. IKEA bag is one of the weird ones that I like because it is very versatile and they're $1. So you can easily just toss them if they get ruined. But the idea here is that if you need a stretcher, you can cut down the sides of the IKEA bag and now you have a nice long piece of plastic with built-in handles. All right. So I have this inside the house in my car. I have a car seat cover that has the loops that go over the headrests. So built-in handles right there, right? So a lot of this is thinking in advance. Okay, what could I use in an emergency? Where are those items? Making sure that we have easy access to them. And if, there's like, oh, well, I actually don't have this thing here, finding out, okay, is there something else I can use instead? Or what have you. I'm not advocating you go out and buy 500 IKEA bags. Think about what you have in your home that can work. Make sure you have easy access to those items. Okay, so coming up is one of my favorite photos in this presentation because it's pretty accurate. All right, now this may seem self-explanatory, but I need to say it. Your safety is the #1 priority, okay? If a dog runs into traffic and gets hit by a car, and then you run into traffic and also get hit by a car, nobody's gonna care about the dog anymore. And also the person best trained to provide aid to the dog is now possibly bleeding on the side of the road, okay? So your safety has to be the #1 priority, just like with people first aid, okay? So we wanna take that beat. Take a breathe. Don't let the adrenaline take over your body, okay? Use it to your advantage and focus. Look at your surroundings. Make sure it is safe to approach, okay? Now, when we approach an animal, we're not trying to sneak up on them or anything. They know we're there, all right? If they're conscious, they know we're there. We are going to approach from behind though, so as not to appear threatening. If we were to come full on at a full dead run right into their face, then we appear to be threatening, okay? So we're gonna approach from behind, we're gonna do so cautiously, but we're going to let them know that we're here like, hey, it's okay, you can talk to them. Everybody has a pet voice, use your pet voice, right? Like, oh my gosh, you're so cute, it's okay, everything's okay. And if you're not sure what your pet voice is, ask your friend, they will tell you what it is. Because everybody has one, and we all get annoyed by everybody else's pet voices, not realizing that we have our own. But go ahead, use your pet voice, okay? Talk to them. We're not like Kermit the Frog with our hands all over the place as we approach. We want to avoid direct eye contact, all right? For cats and dogs, even in normal situations, direct eye contact is a threatening maneuver, all right? So we want to avoid direct eye contact. Look at them out of the corner of your eye. Use the least amount of force possible, okay? So if the animal can move on their own and it's safe for them to do so, let them do that, all right? Make sure that they're on a leash, let them move, okay? A lot of times we make this mistake with small dogs. A small dog is in danger, and the first thing our instinct is like, oh my gosh, okay, let's take you out of here. Okay, that's very unsettling for the dog. If someone ran into a room and picked me up and carried me out of the room, I would not love that person. I don't care how many Hallmark movies tell you otherwise, you would be frightened and annoyed, okay? So let's not do that to our pets. Let's give them that agency, give them that choice of movement. If they can move, let them, all right? We've got some advice to how to safely help them later on in the presentation. When we are working with animals, we want to avoid the bitey end as much as possible, okay? So cats and dogs, they bite when they're afraid, they bite when they're stressed, all right? So we want to avoid the bitey end as much as possible. If you need to go near their mouth, we try to protect our fingers. It's a lot easier for an animal to grip a single digit than to grip onto an entire hand. I'm not saying they can't, I'm just saying it's harder, okay? So do the Barbie, do the Ken doll, keep your fingers together so that you're not giving them that easy access to get wrapped around one finger, okay? So we use that, and we try to avoid being too close to the mouth for as long as possible. As soon as you can, as soon as it's safe to do so, contact your local veterinarian. Ideally, the closest one to your location, if you can find it. Google Maps is awesome for that. Because best case scenario, they talk you through the situation and everything's all good. Worst case scenario, they know what's going on before you even get in the car to take the animal to them. So they're up to speed. They can start prepping on their end for whatever emergency that you're dealing with. And I don't care how long you have known this animal, if it is the sweetest, cuddliest, friendliest animal you've ever met in the entire life. if an animal is in pain, if they are being moved into pain, if they are freaking out, they could bite you. Okay, anything with teeth can bite you. I have had my animals for their entire lives. I still make sure to take the necessary precautions when I need to do unpleasant things to them, because that is how animals defend themselves against pain. They lash out at what they perceive as causing the pain, whether it's your fault or not, okay? When we are handling cats, because they have additional weapons they can use against us, we're gonna hold them as far away from our body as possible. All right, yep. They have very flexible spines. It's actually how they can land on their feet when they fall, because they can twist their body in ways that we can't to land on their feet. So that means they can swing their body around and get you in the stomach, hold them at a distance, but there are other ways to do that, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Okay, so for our pets, with dogs, we want to control the head. Okay, if you have a muzzle, awesome. We'll talk about those in a minute. If you don't, you can use basically like a half Nelson. All right, you're going to control the head, but also you want to control the back of the body, because they're going to use this end of the body to break free of the hold. Okay, so yeah, you're controlling the head, but you're also holding the back. If the pet is laying down, one option you can do is by holding the legs like this. All right, so I have my arm against the neck so that they can't lean up. Now, obviously, I'm not like laying on the dog here. I'm just restraining the dog here, but I'm also making sure that these feet that are along the ground are restrained as well, because that's what they use as leverage to get themselves up and away from you. So we want to make sure that we're holding on to those legs as well. Ideally, you could have one person doing the restraining, one person doing the examination. If you need to, though, you can restrain this way, okay? With muzzles, commercial muzzles are amazing. This is what a typical one looks like. So vinyl mesh, something like this. Okay, it goes over the snout and buckles in the back. We don't love this one for the simple fact that it prevents the dog from doing a lot of other natural behaviors, not just biting. The preferred one is actually a basket muzzle. Okay, so a basket muzzle goes over. And the great thing about this is the dog can still bark, so it can still communicate. It can pant. It can drink water. It can even take treats by you palming the treat in your hand, and then they can lap it up. I have two 40-pound beagles. They are both basket muzzle trained, because one of them's kind of a dick and likes to bite things. And the way to do that is positive reinforcement with the introduction of the muzzle. Okay, so when I first got their muzzle, I sized it, I ordered it off online. First thing I did, I brought it out of the box. I was showing it to the dog, letting them sniff it, and I was giving them a bunch of treats just while they looked at the muzzle. The next thing I did a couple days later is I put some treats right here. So they came and they got the treats out of the muzzle. Next, I used peanut butter, and I spread peanut butter on the inside and then all the way at the back. So they were voluntarily sticking their head in and licking the inside of the muzzle. A couple days later, I did that again and I buckled it, like 10 seconds, and then I took it off. A couple days later, after we'd done that successfully for a little while, they were comfortable with that. My one dog loves to watch TikTok videos of cats and dogs. So I put on his stories and had him wear his muzzle while he watched his stories on TikTok, okay? So he wasn't paying attention to the muzzle anymore. He was paying attention to the thing that he loved the most, and the muzzle just happened to be on. When I leave the house now and I pack up their basket muzzle, I have to be a little careful, because if they see it, they get really excited, because it's basically a treat dispenser, right? Like when they're wearing it, I'm giving them treats and they get super excited. So if they catch me with it, they're like, ah! And of course I'm like, oh yeah, okay, here's some treats, here's some treats, here's some treats. So like when my dog stepped in sap and I had to shave between his paws to get the sap out from in between his paws, this wasn't scary for him to put on. He immediately put it on, we gave him treats, and then I could do what he wanted. right? Because then I was safe to do what I needed with his feet. He doesn't like having his feet touched, so I wanted to make sure that I stayed safe, he stayed safe, and this was one less scary thing about that situation. Because trust me, the fact that he kept picking up stuff with his little sappy paws was very, very scary for him, but this wasn't, because we had done the training. The Muzzle Up project online goes through those steps in great detail. Highly recommend you check it out. It's got a lot of great information. Okay. Okay, we talked about cats with their flexible spines. Let's talk about the Pareto method. Now, I'm going to use my dog here for an example. So with cats, we do not force them to do things. We negotiate with them, okay? We negotiate with our cats. So sometimes we need to do unpleasant things with them. They do not recommend any more scruffing, okay? They do not recommend picking up a cat by the scruff, because that's kind of the equivalent of someone picking me up by my ponytail. Wouldn't like that person, wouldn't want to do what they wanted, okay? Yeah, mama cats do it to their kittens, but a kitten is this big and a full-grown cat is this big, all right? That's a lot of weight difference going on. So instead, if we need to do some sort of exam with our cats, the recommendation is to try the Pareto method if you need to keep them contained. Okay, so first thing we do is we have the towel and we bring the cat over, we put them on the towel. When I first started doing this with my cat, all I would do was put some treats on the towel and I would walk away. So she was used to me bringing her over and putting her on the towel, okay? Then I would have her lay down, probably again with a treat, okay? And the first thing I do is I pinch up the towel around her neck. Okay, so I pinch up the towel around her neck. That way she can't wiggle her way out. Then I'm going to wrap the towel around her body. Now, I'm not wrapping it up with my arm. You don't want to be in here, okay? So don't do that to yourself. Wrap it along the back. Take the other side, fold over, always keeping that first pinch and going all the way around there. Then we can bring up the other side and our cat is nicely contained within this towel. So my cat used to get terrible ear infections. We had to rinse her ear out all the time. It was not pleasant for anybody. And we would start with this. And then we had a good guy, bad guy situation in my house. I was the bad guy. I got to be the bad guy. And we also had a safe spot for my cat. So the safe spot was on top of the washing machine near her cat tree. So she knew nothing bad would happen to her there. So the second I was done with whatever bad things I was doing to her, I would put the towel down and release her on top of the washing machine. My husband would come in like a hero behind me with lots of treats. And she stuck around, right? She didn't immediately run for cover. She didn't freak out. She didn't try to get us in the middle of the night, okay? Because cats hold grudges. She knew that that minute was over because that was the routine that we set up for her. And we never, ever did anything bad to her at the washing machine, just so that she knew, okay, this is safe. This is our safe spot. Okay, if you're in an emergency situation and you need to get to the vet immediately, we recommend a top-loading carrier for cats, because then what you can do is you can take your towel, take your blanket, right over the cat, scoop it up, make sure you get everything wrapped up in that towel, everything goes in the carrier. Don't try to take your towel back. It's hers now, all right? It's theirs. It lets them hide underneath it. It also smells like home, so it's a little bit more comforting. Bam, close the carrier, and we go, all right? A little bit less stressful than trying to chase them around and shove them in the front door of a carrier where they miraculously grow more legs that they can block from going in the front door. So that is how we recommend if you need to get somewhere quickly. Now, for an emergency muzzle, so let's say that you do not have a muzzle on you, or you have a guest in the area or whatever, you don't have a muzzle that fits them, whatever. You can make an emergency muzzle out of a slip lead. So you're going to make a slip knot, okay, just like tying your shoes, have that nice big loop, approach from behind, okay? And don't worry, every dog will stay perfectly still while you do this. You're going to go around. You're going to bring that loop down over, protecting your fingers, around on top, okay? Cross the straps underneath the chin. Bring it around to the back, making sure the ears are not caught. And you're going to tie it in a bow. Now, the reason we tie in a bow at the back instead of a knot is because if the pet starts to choke or vomit or something like that, we want to be able to release this really quickly, okay? Also, probably the vet's probably just going to cut it, okay? But if it's an easy release, we can release it that way. Does anybody here have a brachiocephalic dog, one of the smushed face dogs? Any of those? Okay. All right. So obviously they don't have a snout to tie onto. All right. So what we do instead is we basically create a version of an airline pillow for them that prevents them from moving their head to bite. So take your handy towel here, get your leash, set it up in the middle, wrap it up in the towel. Take it, approach from behind, keep your fingers underneath the towel, and again, tie it up with a bow. Okay? So with that brachiocephalic dog, now they can't get their muzzle down to get to where my hands are. All right? They can't turn to where they need to go, so it helps to secure them, especially for injuries or wounds that you're caring for on the body, okay? I do not recommend trying to do this with a cat. The Pareto method is going to be the better method for a cat than trying to do any of these particular muzzle techniques, or of course you can use the cat muzzle itself. All right, let's dive into common issues. So as we move into summer, not today, but later, hopefully, because I'm freezing, we might need to worry about heat-related problems, okay? So a pet experiencing heat stroke or hyperthermia may exhibit excessive panting, dehydration. Does anybody know how to test dehydration on people? Any medical folks out there? Okay, so yeah, it's similar, right? So with people, we're gonna do the skin test, okay? So typically you use the back of your hand, someplace where the skin is nice and taut. You pinch up and you release. Hydrated skin snaps back into place, okay? On a pet, typically what we do is the back of the neck. Hydrated skin snaps back into place. If it's a little slower going back down, it means that pet is dehydrated. So that's how we can test that. If we have those bright red gums, rapid heart rate, foaming at the mouth, eventually it's going to start affecting their neurological system, their brain. So they might start acting drunk, uncoordinated, a little woozy, vomiting, and eventually they will lose consciousness, okay? In a situation like that, the first thing we want to do is remove them from direct heat. So typically the emergency that we see most often in this area is a pet left in a hot car, okay? A car can reach fatal temperatures even if the outside temperature is in the 70s, okay? A closed car can reach fatal temperatures even if the outside temperature is in the 70s. Especially at risk are animals with smushed faces, because they already struggle to breathe, all right? Or if they are exceptionally young or exceptionally old, okay? So keep that in mind as well. So the first thing we wanna do is remove the pet from direct heat. We don't wanna like shock their system too much. So we don't wanna use ice or anything like that, but we can place their paws in cool water, all right? Or you can take a cool wet towel and wrap it around their torso. It's kind of the same idea with us if we're feeling overheated, right? They have you put wet cloths on the back of the neck, on the wrists. You're trying to get the major arteries, okay? So with a pet, you're trying to affect the femoral arteries and the brachial arteries, the ones in the armpits and the ones in the back leg pits, okay? You can also put them in like a baby pool of cool water or like splash their undersides with that cool water to help bring their temperature down. You want to monitor those vital signs because as your pet cools down, their heart rate should slow back down. They shouldn't be panting as much. That bright red gum color should be going back to normal. Okay. But if at any point you saw some of those higher level items like foaming at the mouth, acting drunk, or vomiting, I would be on the phone with the vet clinic, talking to them, and then as soon as possible, transport your pets because the vet can provide saline to cool the pet from the inside, okay, to make sure that there's lower risk of internal organ damage. On the flip side of that, cold-related issues, there are two basic kinds. Frostbite, which is localized damage to tissue, which can happen in as little as 30 minutes for some pets, or hypothermia. So hypothermia is a more serious condition that affects the whole body. Basically, the body is shutting down, okay? So with frostbite, you may notice swollen red skin, painful to the touch. It might then become hard and pale. Eventually, it starts to look black and dead, okay? With pets, it tends to happen on the extremities, tails, feet, and ears. If you've ever seen a cat that looks like it's missing an ear, chances are it lost it to frostbite at some point. Okay, so that's where you get some of the funky looking ear things going on with some of our outdoor cats. For hypothermia, we're going to see the opposite of what happened with hyperthermia. So hypothermia, cold shutdown, we're going to have blue colored gums, slower breathing, slower heart rate, and lethargy. Okay, basically the body is trying to reserve that core body temperature. So it's pulling heat from the extremities to conserve that core body temperature. All right. Same with hyperthermia. We want to remove them from the bad temperature right away. Okay. You can use a warm compress. We never use hot water. Okay. But we use a warm compress. This is one of my favorite recommendations from the pet first aid place is you can wrap them in a dry towel or inside your coat. Now, if you are out on a walk and you notice a stray cat in what you think might be hypothermia, yes, you may put it into your coat to help it, but remember that the goal is for the cat to wake up. And then it's right by your jugular, okay, in a stranger's coat. So please keep your safety as the #1 priority, okay? Yes, share your heat, but do so as safely as possible, all right? You can hug them. We never recommend rubbing them because if they do have frostbite, if they do have damaged skin, rubbing is going to make it a bunch of times worse. It's kind of like, you know, when your foot falls asleep and you get that pins and needles feeling when it wakes up. Yeah, but times a billion, okay? As that dead skin falls off and exposes those raw nerves underneath, it's very, very painful. So we do not want to rub because we don't want to irritate those nerves. Monitor those vital signs. The pet should start to be more alert, okay? Breathing should return to normal. Heart rate should return to normal. Again, if you noticed any of those signs that they were starting to get really sleepy or, you know, even reach unconsciousness, absolutely take them to a vet. They can provide saline to warm them up from the inside out to protect those internal organs. All right, for seizures, has anybody seen a pet have a seizure before? Okay, so it can be very frightening, all right, especially if you don't know what's happening. I'm going to throw my brother under the bus. I do that a lot with my family. He has a beagle. We're a beagle family. Beagles are prone to seizure disorders. He adopted the dog. First time it had a seizure, he freaked out and he did everything wrong. He shoved his hand in its mouth to prevent her from swallowing her tongue. He ran and jumped in the car and was driving with the dog in his lap as he got to the vet. And when he got there, the vet's like, okay, well, how long did the seizure last? Like, I don't know. I don't know. She woke up at some point. Okay. You know, what did the symptoms look like as it started? I don't know. She fell over. Like he hadn't been paying attention at all because he was so focused on getting her to help. And unfortunately, with a seizure, the best thing we can do typically is to observe as much as we can. I actually, when I was fostering beagles down in Florida, we had several that came in with seizure disorders. I would always record them on my phone so that I had proof that I could show to the vet, and also that I could then immediately time the different stages of the seizure. Okay. So we've got an actual veterinarian that's going to talk us through what to do for pets that are having a seizure.
A seizure is a startling sign of abnormal activity in the brain. And while there are many different types of seizures, in this video we're going to focus on generalized tonic-clonic or grand mal seizures. Now, during a seizure, your pet will lose consciousness, then become stiff, and this is the tonic phase and can last for about 15 to 30 seconds. He'll then develop jerking motions repetitively, and this can last for anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds. During this time, your pet may also urinate or defecate. And you may also notice a biting motion. That's actually very common in dogs and cats, that seizure. After the seizure, after this tonic-clonic phase, your pet will experience what's known as the postictal phase. Now, during this time, your pet won't be completely normal, although she will have regained consciousness. She may become glassy-eyed or unsteady or uncoordinated, and this can last anywhere from a few minutes to several hours. Caring for your pet during a seizure is about making sure neither you or your pet become injured. Never put your hand in or around your pet's mouth while they're having a seizure. And while you shouldn't try to restrain her, you do want to make sure that she doesn't injure herself by falling off of furniture or downstairs. Although it can be difficult to remain calm during a seizure, it's really important to take note of what happened. What happened before the event, how long did the seizure last, how long did that tonic-clonic activity last, and how long was that postictal phase. After the seizure, you also want to take your pet's vital signs and note that information before getting her to your veterinarian. Most seizures will stop on their own after about a minute or two, but if your pet has a seizure lasting longer than 5 minutes or has more than one seizure in a 24-hour period, this indicates an emergency and immediate veterinary care should be sought. Now, if your pet does have ongoing seizure activity, she could overheat. And so you may need to provide cooling, either by bathing her with cool water and providing fans or air conditioning during transport. You want to try to make sure you keep her temperature below about 104 degrees Fahrenheit until you get her to the veterinary facility, where they'll be able to help you take control of the seizures and keep her temperature under control.
All right, so for poisoning, typically you're going to see vomiting or diarrheaing, the body trying to expel the poison. They might be drooling quite a bit. They might have difficulty breathing. They might have seizures or muscle tremors, excitability. They could lose consciousness, okay? As long as the pet is breathing normally and is not labored, we want to try to identify the poison, okay? If your pet vomits, get some of it, okay? Or try to figure out what they took. You can contact your veterinarian or the poison helpline. Now, these do charge. A lot of times when you call like the emergency vet, they'll talk you through. My favorite was when my first dog ate 36 peanut butter blossom cookies off my counter, which have the Hershey's Kiss in them. And apparently I'm very cheap and I did not have a high cocoa content in my cookies. So that was good. Just meant she had a stomachache, nothing worse. So a lot of times they will talk you through it, okay? If you are advised to administer hydrogen peroxide, only do so at the recommendation of a veterinarian or the pet poison helpline. You're going to use 1 teaspoon per 5 pounds of your pet's weight, okay? And if you're not good at math, like me, just pull a teaspoon out of the drawer, fill it up, and then suck it up into a turkey baster or your oral syringe or whatever, okay? Don't try to do math and figure out milliliters to tablespoons or whatever. And then you just shoot it at the back of their mouth. It foams up and it causes them to vomit. We never go over 3 tablespoons. So if you have larger pets, you can think of it as 1 tablespoon per 15 pounds, okay? 45-pound dog is going to get the same amount, that 3 tablespoons, just like an 100-pound dog. For allergic reaction, pets have allergies to different things, just like we do. Boxers tend to be a little bit dramatic, so they might have hive reactions like you see here. Believe this or not an emergency, just being super drama. As long as it's not hindering their breathing, it's not a big deal, all right? We want to make sure that they are able to breathe okay, that they are with it, that they're cognizant, they're not super lethargic, they're not out of it, anything like that. You may be able to treat with over-the-counter medication, Benadryl, but do so at the advice of your veterinarian. When pets have allergies, they tend to make things worse by creating hot spots where something is itchy, so they lick it, and they chew on it, and they inflame the skin even more. If you see this multiple times, it could be a sign of a chronic allergy. My pets go on allergy meds throughout the summer because they're allergic to different types of grass and pollen. So they go on allergy meds because otherwise their feet just get really disgusting because they swell up and get really inflamed and red and itchy for them. So could be a sign that you need to either switch out a diet or talk to your veterinarian about different things. For choking. Okay, so if your pet is awake and coughing, they may be able to dislodge the item on their own. If they do, take it from them so they don't try to swallow it again and are more successful next time, right? Okay, if they swallow it, if you don't know what it was that they swallowed, it's important to contact your veterinarian, right? Because they're gonna wanna monitor what it was. One of the vets at our shelter once came out into the office area with a full-blown adult sock that was found in the small intestines of a dachshund, okay, that had to be removed surgically because it was causing a blockage, all right? Now, you may need to intervene if your pet starts to act frantic, is like pawing at their mouth. If they start struggling for air, they get that wheezing sound, and their gums become discolored. And of course, if they're losing consciousness. The tongue takes up a lot of space at the back of the mouth. That's why they can reach so far out to get you. So the first thing you want to do is actually pull that tongue forward because that's going to free up space at the back of the mouth. So if the item's there, it may dislodge on its own as you pull that tongue forward and release that pressure back there, okay? If you can see the item, do a finger sweep. So take 2 fingers, go to the side of the mouth and try to hook the item out. Don't just do like a finger gag thing, right? And try to push it down further. We want to hook it out of the side, okay? And that's typically only if you can see the item. Otherwise, it may be too far down. It's just a waste of time at that point, okay? With our pets, we're going to do kind of a modified Heimlich maneuver, all right? So we're going to do abdominal thrusts, and we're also going to do back blows to try to get the item out. Oh, too far. Okay, so I'm going to find the soft spot underneath the rib cage. You can use 1 or 2 fists depending on the size of your animal. And if a smaller pet, you can have them secure up against your back. You're going to do a backwards J. So you're going to go towards the spine and the mouth at the same time. So an upward thrust. If you have a larger animal, you may be doing it while they're standing or even while they're laying down, okay? And then we do those back blows right between the shoulder blades. So typically they recommend 5 abdominal thrusts, 5 back blows, and then check the mouth again to see if the item has come out. Okay. All right, moving on to wound care. This is one of my favorite pictures. So for those who can't read that, I told Otis to stay away from the bee, but he didn't listen. Now he's out here looking like the Kardashians. So this is a reaction to a bee sting. It stung the inside of his mouth, not an emergency, just very photogenic, okay? As long as they're breathing okay, as long as their behavior is fine, typically you can handle allergic bee stings, insect stings like this with a cool compress. Things like that. You may use Benadryl to help with swelling or irritation. If you can see the stinger, take a credit card or something hard and plastic at a 45-degree angle and scrape it out. Don't use tweezers because that can actually inject more venom into the wound site. So scrape it out. limit the pet's movement to prevent the venom from going very quickly through the system, monitor the pet for signs of allergic reaction, trouble breathing, things like that. And if you see trouble breathing, absolutely take to the vet as soon as possible. For ticks, we use blunt-headed tweezers as close to the skin as possible, and you lift straight up because you want to try to make sure you remove the head of the tick where it doesn't actually break off and get into the skin, which could cause an infection. For burns, this is one of the hardest ones for the layperson to diagnose because sometimes the worst burns are the least painful because all the nerves have died, okay? High-risk situations are hot pavement. The rule of thumb there is if you can't keep the back of your hand on the pavement for more than 5 seconds, it's too hot for your pet to walk on with their bare feet. Okay, so use a cooler time of day, use booties, walk in the shade, walk in the grass to avoid burns to the bottom of their feet. Counter surfing during food prep, hot stoves, gas stoves, things like that. And yes, pets can get sunburned. So pink-nosed animals, thin-haired animals, no-haired animals can get sunburns. We want to monitor to make sure that they're not spending too much time out in the sun. And then around Christmas time is a big thing, chewing electrical cords, cats and Christmas lights. I don't know what it is. So you can use cord guards. You can do the fun thing where people hang their Christmas trees from the ceiling. Whatever you need to do to prevent access. If you bring a new pet into your household, make sure to monitor them to see where their desires lie. With a burn, really only a vet can determine the severity of it, okay? So I don't know about you, I got burned on a hot pan and I thought my arm was gonna fall off, and it was like a 1-degree burn without any blisters. And it was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced, okay? So if nothing else, the vet can help you with pain management for your pet. So anytime you suspect a burn, I would be talking to your veterinarian, giving them a call, trying to figure out what to do with that. You can do cool water compresses, but we do not use ice or burn ointments intended for people. A lot of times animals lick wounds. Those preservatives and those ointments can be very toxic for them if ingested. So do not use burn ointments meant for people. For bandaging, there are 3 types, okay? We've got arterial, that's the, like bright horror movie spurting of the red blood. Venous is slower, it's a flow of darker red blood. And capillary is like scraping your knee, okay? Superficial, oozy a little bit. Any type of injury like this is going to be painful. If you have an arterial or venous bleed, those can be fatal, okay? So we want to apply direct pressure, okay? If you notice that your gauze starts to get bloody, all right? So let's say I've got my dog here. We've got a bleed on the femoral artery and blood starts to seep through that gauze. I'm going to add more gauze to it, okay? Don't rip up because that's gonna hurt the clotting process, so don't rip up, okay? Keep pressure on the wound. For an arterial one, you can lift it up above the heart so that gravity helps the blood stay in the body, all right? So for an arterial bleed, you can do that. You can also apply direct pressure to the artery above the wound, closer to the heart, as like a little mini tourniquet. So you can do that for like 45 seconds. So I'm gonna apply 45 seconds and then we release because we don't wanna damage the artery. We don't wanna cause any other issues. For this, you're probably gonna want stitches, but to keep this bandaging in place, you can use anything you have on hand, okay? So if you have a t-shirt, a towel, whatever, tie it off and go. One of the things that I like to do is this roll gauze, because what I can do with this is as I overlap this roll gauze, one, it provides extra absorption as I'm going. It's also providing that pressure to the wound. So if I'm on my own and I need to get my pet to the vet, obviously I can't drive and hold a femoral artery at the same time, okay? So what I like about this is that when you do a tie off at the end, now obviously if you're in a rush, and I'm gonna make this look easy because I've done it like 5,000 times by now, but once you get to the point where you've done this a bunch, you bring out the end, you tent it, take out your other end, use it as a tie, put the knot right over your gauze. So that's gonna help apply pressure to that bandage if you can't keep direct pressure while you're driving, okay? And again, I make it look easy because I've done it a bunch. I will happily demonstrate it for anybody after, but we got 1 minute left, so I'm trying to make it. All right. Okay, so for broken bones, 2 types. Open and closed, just like with people. Closed, the skin remains intact. You're not going to be able to see it. Open, that's the scary kind when you can see bone poking out. Your pet may be limping or immobile, so maybe you're not sure if it's a sprain. Maybe you're not sure, like, oh, did their leg fall asleep while, while they were sleeping? What happened? Typically, with a broken bone, the pain's just going to continue to get worse. All right, pain's going to continue to get worse. If you have an open break, do not try to put anything on it, right? Do not try to splint it. Do not try to force the bones back in because you might sever an artery and now you have 2 emergencies, okay? So with a broken bone, typically we want to pad around the break with whatever we can to prevent movement, not necessarily to keep things inside the body unless you have an arterial bleed. Then we want to bandage as best we can to keep the blood inside the body. But besides that, we're just trying to immobilize the pet's limb, whatever happens to be broken, while we get them to the vet. You can use a stretcher. You can help use a towel. So let's say that their front legs are fine, but their back legs are having issues. Use a towel underneath their hips to help them walk, get into the car. If it's their front legs, same thing, put it under their armpits. Lay them on their non-wounded side and try to restrain them so they're not moving around. Ideally, you have somebody else in the car with you so that either you can drive or they can drive and you can help to restrain the pet. Okay, 1 minute over. That's not actually bad for me. All right, so if at any point you guys have questions, feel free to reach out to us. All right, DuPage County Animal Services, we are here to be a resource for the community of DuPage. That is our job. We want all the animals in DuPage County, all the pets, to be living in happy, healthy homes. Absolutely reach out to us if you have a question. Now, if you have a medical question, we'll do the best if we have familiarity. Typically, we're going to say, okay, do you have a veterinarian? Would you like me to provide resources to find either low-cost veterinarians or something near you? Because most of the people who answer the phone all of the people who answer the phone are not going to be veterinarians. Okay, our veterinarians doing veterinarian things, not answering the phones. But we will do our absolute best to help you find resources to troubleshoot with whatever problems you have. So you can reach us online, you can reach us via email, and of course you can call us during business hours. Excellent. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Oh, hang on just a second. We're coming up with a mic.
As with people, I think of peeing and pooping as being really important for animals. Are there, and especially with cat, I have a cat, and I know cats have a lot of kidney issues, and so is there a guideline for? I guess they should be peeing at least once a day or twice a day, or
So that's a good call for your veterinarian because it does change as they age and if they have any underlying medical conditions. As far as I know, the average is at least once a day, could be up to a couple times a day. It's funny because it changes so much with humans as well that we can't say that, yes, this is the normal for every single animal. Typically, what your vet is going to advise you look at is it's going to sound weird, the quality of the defecation and the urine output. Okay. If it is very strong smelling, that could be a sign that it's super concentrated, that their kidneys aren't processing it fully. They may be going once a day, they may be going twice a day, but if it's a really strong smelling urine, that could be a sign that there's something going on there as well. Same with defecation. With poop, we need to make sure that it's in that nice consistency. They rate it on 1 to 7. A 3 to 4, right in the middle, is what you're looking for. It has shape, but it's not solid, right? Like it's not rock hard is what you're looking for. So if that is looking okay, then typically that's what they look for, is they look for the output. Yeah, but absolutely talk to your veterinarian. to see if you have any concerns, if there's a change. So like with my adult cat, I noticed that she had hyperthyroidism because all of a sudden she was peeing 4 times a day instead of twice a day. Her normal was twice a day because I scooped her litter box twice a day. So I knew that, right? These, litter robot things are amazing, but they take away all of the evidence that we can use to diagnose our pets. So absolutely, if there's a change, contact a veterinarian. Yep. Excellent. Any other questions?
Could you repeat the information about the Red Cross app?
Sure. So the Red Cross app is available, I believe, on iPhone and Android. You can just Google it, Red Cross Pet First Aid app. I don't get any money from it or anything. It's just something they put out there. I like it the best though, because I find it has the most easily organized information. There's a separate tab for dogs. There's a separate one for cats. You can put your own information in there. So your vet's information, so you can easily access it. You can read articles about what's normal, what to be on the lookout for, warning signs. And then if you're a giant nerd like myself, you can quiz yourself on it. Okay. So I highly recommend using that. It's a lot easier to find an answer in there than Googling, what does this mean? Because you never know who wrote the websites that pop up there. So I like their app as a reliable resource.
Any questions? Oh,
Hi, can you talk a little bit about CPR for cats and dogs?
Yes, it is a thing, but I teach an entire 6-hour class about it. So it is an extensive thing. When I do the first aid and CPR class, the entire second half of the class is based on rescue breathing and doing CPR and also managing wound care. So there are online classes that you can take. We also offer pet first aid classes at the shelter in Wheaton. We don't have any current dates. We're probably looking at August for our next date. You can sign up for our newsletter to be alerted. The people who subscribe to the newsletter always get the first news of our upcoming programs. So yes, you can do CPR, but unfortunately, I do not have enough time to give you even a basic understanding of it today because it's very, very involved. Yeah. But thanks for letting me plug my class. Appreciate it. Oh, yes. Oh, thank you. Any other questions, folks? Okay, wonderful. Now, as I mentioned before, one of the first things you need to make sure that you have as a prepared pet parent is a pet first aid kit. And you can outfit a people first aid kit with the items I've shown, or you can support homeless pets at the shelter and buy one here for $35. All right. So I have a few with me. I'm happy to stick around. If anybody wants to purchase, I do Venmo, I do cash. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I appreciate you coming out on this chilly May night. Keep a lookout on our webpage. We have lots of programs that we're going to be offering as soon as construction is officially finished. So we're very excited to be offering additional services to the community right at our shelter in Wheaton, and of course out here in the community as well. All right. Thank you, folks. Have a great rest of your night. I appreciate you. Anything else from me, Sue?
no, thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you, guys.